Last but not least, lawyer Nelson Harvey. And gentlemen, as we continue taking a look at the state of the nation, on page 4 of the paper, or of the Standard newspaper, is an appeal. The opposition has gone back to court to appeal the decision that gave IEBC the leeway to use a manual backup system. Now, through the lawyers, and I quote, the opposition argues that the High Court erred when it established that there was sufficient public participation and that a purely electronic system will be a disaster to the country in the event that it fails. So NASA is in court once again with IEBC. But the bigger question, Wakili, even as we try to dissect the legal jargon, is what is a manual backup system and what is the difference with the electronic backup system that the opposition is asking for?
This thing has been complicated totally out of ignorance. The fact is simple. All recommendations towards a credible election was that we need to have a computerized, seamless electoral process where you're able to identify the voter is able to vote, and then the count is able to get transmitted to the next level electronically. Now, towards the end of last year, there'd been a consensus to put in place an elaborate, complete electronic system to enable this exercise. However, in a big turnaround, the Jubilee part of the National Assembly went and legislated to do with a complete manual backup. Now, when NASA went to court, their complaint was not necessarily the one of public participation. The issue was there is no elaborate regulatory mechanism to facilitate a manual backup. And to that extent, the election must be conducted strictly on an electronic basis. And that argument was quite credible. And the argument by the High Court that there will be a catastrophe should the system fail is an argument that cannot avail any support. Reason being this. Look, I can see on your desk there, you have two gadgets. One is big and one is small. So the bigger one is the one that you use ordinarily. The smaller one is the backup. So that if this one fails, you take the other one. And even look at the Jubilee spokesman. He has two phones. And I believe one looks like an iPhone, one looks like a Samsung. With the direct eventuality that should one system fail, then it'll be able to retrieve this data from the other. And essentially that is how it is supposed to be. So that the system is supposed to be network-based, but should it fail, you are able to go back and get the same information.
So where then
elsewhere.
is the controversy?
The controversy is this. It's very difficult to run around or to rig, to steal in a computerized electronic system. But it's very easy to steal when you're doing it manually. And that has been the culture in Kenya. All systems are beaten despite the need to grow towards a technological environment so that, you see, the cartels that we also talk about are the ones that thrive in the controversy of beating the system. In my opinion, this is a clear case of attempting to beat the system. I'm
going to get to you. I see you burning to respond to that, but let's hear from Mheshimiwa Ndolo for a moment, because this affects all politicians and candidates in this election.
Yeah, to add on that, I think you can see from the beginning, NASA has been complaining about the cleaning up of the registry, of which up to now, IBC are not clear about it. So the worry is also on that issue, because if you are going to go manually, and the register has not been cleared and cleaned properly well, what's going to happen? Maybe what they're talking about all the time, that the dead people are going to be involved in the voting system. So if you go on the side of what Wakili is talking about, then it will be very difficult for one to rig the elections this time.
George.
Yeah, I think there are key issues again here, even that borders on definition, because public participation is key in this aspect. We actually wish to know within the Act who is public in this case, and how sure are we that they have participated, and at what given time do they participate, so that we draw a logical conclusion that this is free and fair election. And then again, when it comes to issues that borders on electronic or manual and all that, I think this should come from IEBC themselves. They should tell us why they should think electronic why they should think a manual and why they should think having the two is okay.
Right.
But from our own imagination, again, you see, we are in the 21st century, and we expect that we have to go electronic. Yes. But we have seen issues to do with schooling, for example, where electronics, where robots had not replaced the teachers. And that's why today we see a boom for those teachers, so that we have aspect of teachers being in class and teaching. Though we still wonder why now. The why now aspect is political. Why pay them now? And are we sure they've been paid?
Right, of course, and we'll be getting into that. That is on the front page. But Amunga, your panelists here seem to think, the electronic system is being opposed because it is the perfect recipe for rigging.
And you know what? And that is the myth that Kenyans are treated to and cheated. The truth of the matter is that the easiest thing to use to manipulate or to rig is actually these electronic devices. How many times have we heard of hackers hacking into all systems in the banks and stealing money? Yeah. How many times, how safe are you even with this phone, even if it's an iPhone? Anybody can track me, know where I am, what I've eaten. If anything, at the end of the day, these things are not even the safest of all. These electronic things, the more we advance, the more we think we are advancing, is actually the more we are actually just going back to Stone Age. These things are just taking us back. And if you go to countries that are advanced like Netherlands, they are actually using manual things. And that brings us another question. What is manual? Already IBC, and I don't speak for IBC, and I even don't know, I only read about them the way all of us read about them. IBC has put forward electronic, what is it called? Biometric, what is it called? Identify yourself. We are talking about things like these things, the voter register or whatever it is. We are talking about SMS, people going to find out if they are still in the register through SMS. I don't know if this is what we call electronic. But at the end of the day, if you really want something proper backup, a proper good election, even countries like Netherlands, countries like India, they are using manual voting. The counting and the tallying is what maybe is different. But the voting itself is very manual. It is even safer for us.
Well, I think I don't agree with Amunga what he's talking about. Because when this government came in, they came in on a digital platform. What is he talking? What is he telling us now?
Digital.
Yes. I think he should be talking about digital issues here, and not about manual.
It is a credible argument.
It's a good argument. And as I've said, IBC does not talk about this. IBC is independent. Whatever they do is independent.
I think Michel, in his opening statement, Amunga said he really doesn't know these things. So let's not allow him to discuss and inform the people about nothing that he knows. He really doesn't know how it happens.
What is a manual backup? You define what is manual and what is electronic, Wakil. At the end of the day, these are just semantics and arguments that just want to confuse Kenyans.
Right, so
Kenyans, on 8th of August, we vote. And the question that keeps arising is this. Are we prepared for these elections? Is the opposition ready for election? Or do we want to go to court again 1-2 hours to the election? Do we want to go to court over these things and other things to appeal and counter-appeal? These games have to reach a place and stop.
Right.
Let us go for the election.
So the opposition is already in court with the IBC. Wakili, what options does the court have and does IBC have in this particular scenario?
Ideally, the court has to determine the matter. Whether or not the matter will be determined by 8th is another thing altogether. But it goes a long way to indicate to you the lack of preparedness on the part of the IBC. And my persistent statement has all along been, they appear to be a well-designed scheme to ensure that what is otherwise intended to be a free and fair electoral process that can be verified, transparent, does not prevail.
What would you term this, a failure of IBC? Because they seem to have everything in order until the opposition came and took them to court.
They seem to have everything in order. This is a crime scene where they're trying to patch up everything. And every time that we're able to point out a key exhibit they have concealed, then they interfere with the crime scene. From the general look, it looks like a very perfect picture until you touch it and you discover it's just a mixture of watercolors and oil paint. It doesn't add up. The picture will fall out of place.
Amunga.
Wakili, let us agree. There's an election coming. what should be the message to Kenyans? If every time it's a matter of the military is interfering, the police is doing this, the IEBC is doing this, the war and so on is doing this, when will we really go for this election? And so the question that all of us must be asking ourselves right now as a country is, can we just go for this election? And once we are in the election, let us vote.
So deal with the other matters after the election.
Yeah, I think that is, as if we get that kind of argument from the government, if you actually represent the government.
No, I don't represent the government.
You are the government.
No, I don't.
You are telling us, let the status quo remain.
I'm a
don't
Kenyan.
complain.
Kenyans are tired.
If you
Kenyans are tired of electioneering, of campaigns, of this thing. We want this thing done and dusted on 8.
I love that. I love
Kenyans.
I'm not talking
about government. I'm talking about Kenya.
The Kenyans, but the Kenyans, part of those Kenyans are the ones saying we need this, we have seen this happening, and we need this kind of correction. And I think it's wise seeing what kind of rumor do we have and trying to act on that. I personally did complain. You saw it at the start before the elections of ODM, that people were interfering with that kind of election, and it did happen exactly because I did know what was happening, and I am one person who will actually go to details when this happens, because it is very key that we don't just assume things, but let us investigate and get the right issue before we just confirm and say, okay, well, let's wait and vote on 8th of August. No, but if there is an issue, let's solve that issue before that 8th of August, because there is room to do that.
All right. Have you had something to say on that?
Well, I needed to emphasize what my good friend Loibon has just said. Previously, we indicated the desire by some individuals in this electoral contest, substantially represented by tribesmen here, who want to travel in a jalopy that even has a flat tire. Look, we need to reach the destination, but let's fix the tire first. What is the hurry? You understand? And I'm not saying in any way whatsoever that there is a reason not to go on with the poll on the 8th. The poll must go on. But if for a fact a date has been pointed here, it has to be fixed.
Right.
Yeah. And if it cannot be fixed within this particular period in time, then consideration has to be put in place to ensure that failing is not the reason as to why we end up with a result that is not credible and fair.
All right.
Yes.
So, gentlemen, on the Standard today is a pullout of a panoramic pullout, they call it, as we count the numbers ahead of the elections. And it's rather big on, I know, an election special. Who will it be? And we have pictures there of Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta, seemingly very friendly with each other, back-to-back pictures. And so we're counting numbers here. And as we continue looking at the tirade of numbers, of course, both parties are in last-minute campaigns ahead of the official close of the campaign period. Amunga, what would you say are the statistics, the stakes, rather, for both Jubilee and NASA, just 9 days to the election?
Very high stakes. But I'm very glad with what the Standard has done today with this magnificent pullout that we are seeing there. And those good pictures of seeing the Raila, Honorable Raila and the President, exchanging and even laughing and talking very nicely. And that is the mood, Kenyans. That's the mood. As much as the stakes are very high, let us remember we are a country, we are a nation. We have this nation. Even after August 8th, this nation has to run. Our children have to go to school. And everything has to continue as it has always been. And as much as the stakes are high, as I see the opinion polls, we are seeing the difference is not very big. And even at some point, some people think that there may be a runoff, although I know there will be no runoff. So at the end of the day, you can be sure of one thing: this is our country, and the media, we want to plead with you and to thank even the Standard, today's Standard, that let us promote peace, let us promote Kenya, unity among Kenyans as we go to this date, or the main date, which is 8th of August.
And of course, the recipe for having a peaceful election comes with the credibility of the entire process. George, as an independent candidate, what are some of the issues you still feel need to be addressed ahead of the elections?
Actually, when it comes to the issues that we need to address before the general elections, that is before the general election, the issues of PUs, and the DPOs also, who will be involved, and the clerks, because we expect that because we are independent, somehow we are fighting with two governments. Because even at times we do not find the independent presidents being captured by the media. We find every time we have two presidents. So we are not very sure whether this election has already been determined, because we expect all the likes of Wainaina and others, Professor and others, Dida, they are supposed to be appearing in these papers, and we also get to know what they are doing with the elections and how they are faring, because we expect that may the best candidate win. But this is already predetermined that we have two. So then why did you have the others in the list? Was it for CVV? Or if that is the thing, then we should have been told that.
All right.
We also expect that we have this kind of arrangement being notified to us, and we get some communique from IBC representatives in those areas, so that we get to know how the whole thing is happening. And even what is happening from this information, from what is happening from at the national level, it should be communicated to us, not through the paper.
All right.
We should get that info so that we get to know what's happening with IBC.
Being involved. All right. Your final comments to your the electorate in Kajiado East as we wind up.
The issue of Kajiado East is something that we can definitely tell you that we are going to win, and we'll have the first independent candidate from Kajiado East, Mr. GK, George Riando Committee.
All right.
So that is what we expect, and we expect now to serve Kenyans, as he was saying. We will not serve them as NASA people or NASA region or Jubilee region, but we'll serve them as a people who will have a people, one of their own, representing them, and being a perfect sample of this country. Because I always say Kajiado is a mini Archer of the Republic of Kenya. It represents all the communities. And that's why we are even preaching peace. You saw me preach peace the other day, using the border people who come from different communities. And this is one thing that we believe, and I believe that we have to constitutionalize the issues of not having tribal issues being discussed. Because as we see today, we have 47 counties. That tells us the 45 plus tribes. So we have constitutionalized tribalism in one way or the other.
All right.
So we hope to bring this in the next parliament, God willing, once we are there, we do amendments to see Kenya as a country and a people who belong to this country as one. Inclusivity.
Yes. Mheshimiwa Ndolo, your closing comments, 9 days to the election, your word to the electorate.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank the Standard coming out such a pullout, which is very important for Kenyans.
Right.
Both sides, you can see that on this side, Jaramogi and Kenyatta, very important. Jaramogi said last time, he's the one which, is my hero. He said that elections come and go.
Yes.
So Kenyans should be very wise on what is going on in this country. They are, from the beginning, you can see things are the way they are. On this side, well, they are good friends, and this is what I will ask them to do.
Right.
When we are now before these 9 days, they should invite each other for a cup of tea instead of shouting on the rallies and blaming each other while they call themselves brothers and Ndugu.
Right.
And then Kenyans are going to be in a problem for nothing. They should show them that this is an election and it will come and go. But we should be straight, and IBC should come out clearly. Free and fair elections. That's what we want.
Right. So this is the pullout here on the Standard newspaper. Do grab your copy of the paper for that. So that is, of course, on the front page, pretty much a story of where it all began in Kenya's election. But Javi, let's have your closing comments, even as of course, we prepare 9 days to the election. Many say that, the question of how are you preparing for the elections is a vague one. Many are buying things and stocking up. Others are traveling out of the country. I don't know how you're preparing for the elections, but your word to Kenyans.
I have 4 points to put across. The first point is this. For the first time, we'll be having about 5 million new voters going to the ballot. Most of this are the .com generation. Please don't go and Google for the answer for this ballot. Don't carry your phone for a selfie. Just go to the polling station calmly, make your decision. If you want to vote in Raila or Uhuru, make your decision. We want either of these individuals to win with a big margin so that we don't have any dispute as to the fact of the winning. That is number one. Number two, on the part of Uhuru and Raila, it's incumbent upon them within the remaining 9 days to educate these 5 million voters on exactly how to vote. Because last time we had a very peculiar candidate by the name Spoiled Vote, who really garnered so many votes. We don't want this chap to get any votes. That is number 2. Number 3, it is to Chebukati. Chebukati, please stop making unnecessary noise. As lawyers, we know what the law provides. NASA and Jubilee are entitled to have agents in their respective polling stations and tallying center. NASA is not a party. NASA is a coalition composed of about 5 parties. And the law is quite clear. Each party is entitled to deputize and send an agent there. So let NASA have 5 agents there. If there's nothing secret, if there's nothing untoward in the process of counting these ballot papers, why don't you want these people to participate and verify? That is number 4. Number 5.
Very briefly, as we wind up.
In the unlikely event that the election is disputed, Kenyans should not go to the streets. We know the people who will be held culpable for the greatest responsibility. It will be IBC and its commissioners. We'll take these people to Uhuru Park and do a trial for them.
All right.
Then that will be the end of this show.
All right, gentlemen, we're out of time. We'll have to wind up. I know, Amunga, you want to draw attention to what's on the front page. Teachers and police get paid.
Yes, that's the end of the debate.
Yeah, so a good story on the front page.
Let me just say my closing remarks. Kenyans, this is good news. So some good things are also happening in this country. The Standard has captured it very clearly. Teachers, I'm one of them. Police get paid more.
All right.
So we are smiling all the way to the bank.
Do grab your copy of the Standard for that report.
Country.
That brings us to a close on our conversation this morning. We've been speaking to Peter Amunga, who is a political analyst, and George Kimiti, who is the independent candidate for the Kajiado East parliamentary seat. We also have Ruben Ndolo, independent candidate for the Makadara parliamentary seat. And last but not least, lawyer Nelson Harvey. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation on Weekend Express. My name is Michelle Ngele. Do stay tuned to KTN News. I'll be back at the top of the hour. Good morning.